What's up everyone and welcome to the club. In today's video, creating a sketch illustration of the Grinch. Welcome back everyone and thanks for joining me today. For this lesson we'll need our sketch pad and a pencil. I'm going to start off with this 0.7mm mechanical pencil with a 2B graphite stick, but you're welcome to use whatever you'd like. Let's begin by adding some guidelines to our page to help with the balance and symmetry of our drawing. We'll start with a straight line coming down the center, starting from the very top in the middle. I'm just going to lightly work my way down towards the bottom, using these short lines. Now I'll move back to the center and draw another line going across from left to right. Now I want to use these two lines to help us create a circle in the center of our page for the skull. So from that center point, let's move up to the top. I'm just going to mark out the top of our circle. Now I'm going to measure this distance from the center down towards the bottom and do the same thing. Let's repeat that across this horizontal line. So measure the distance from the center over toward the left and then the right side. Now I want to connect the center point of each mark with a curve to create our circle. So let's start with the top left. Now the circle doesn't have to be perfect. We're using this as a guide. I'm going to come back and just modify the shape later. Let's add another set of guidelines coming down the side, coming all the way down towards the bottom. And then across the bottom of our circle from left to right. Now with the circle and guidelines in place, we're going to start blocking out the facial features. Let's start by adding a gap in between the eyes. From the center line across the bottom of our circle, we're going to move over toward the left, draw a short line going up, and then measure that same distance over towards the right. Now from this point, we're just going to angle the eyebrow going up and then out towards the left side of our circle with a straight line. Let's go back to the inside of the brow. We're going to curve the eye, going to go up and then out towards the outside of our circle. And we'll round out the bottom of the eye, coming down, around, and then up towards the inside. Now let's go back to the center. We're going to step down to right about here and draw a small oval for the nose. Now the space between the nose and the mouth is quite long, so we're going to go all the way down to right about here. Draw a straight line going across from left to right. Let's go back to the eyes. We're going to push the iris and pupil underneath the eyelid. So on the left side, we're going to draw a curve, almost like a half circle coming all the way around, and just tucking that up underneath the eyelid. Do the same thing on the right. We can always come back and just readjust the placement later. Just going to lightly sketch that in. Now from the inside corner of the eye, let's bend this down around the nose and then out towards the cheek. And we just want to line this up with the bottom edge of the nose. From here, we're going to curve the mouth, coming down and then in towards that bottom line. Now from the corner of the mouth, we're just going to curve this down and then in towards the chin. And then we want to round up the chin. Now we're going to go back to the eyebrows. From the top, it's going to curve this around and then come straight down beside the eyes. And then we're going to move all the way out towards that outside line. It's going to curve the cheek, coming down and then out. Let's round out the cheek. And then we're just going to pull this down and then in behind the chin. Now we're going to go back and modify the shape of the head. Let's start from the top, going up and then in. Just going to round out the head, coming up and then in towards the middle, go out and then down towards the right. Now I want to draw the hair in the center. Let's start from the middle. We're going to curve this out toward the left, go around, and then pull that up, come down, and then in towards that center line. Let's add another curl. From the center, curve this around and down, and bend that back in. Now just underneath the head, we're going to draw two lines coming down the side of the neck. Now with our rough sketch in place, I'm going to go back and erase some of these guidelines. It'll help us get a better look at our proportions. Now once we've cleaned up our drawing, I'm going to go back and add a second level of detail using this rough sketch as a guide. Now I'd like to start with the inside edge of the brow. So from this point, I'm just going to bend this up and then in. Now we're still lightly sketching this in. It'll give us an opportunity to go back and readjust if we need to. Let's add that fold in the center. Now we're just going to work our way across the bottom edge of the brow. I'm going to add a little bit of shape. So bend this up, round out the top, and then come down the side. Now I'm going to add some thickness to the brow. I'll go up higher in the middle, come in, and down. I'm just going to bend that back in towards the inside. I'm just going to work our way across the upper eyelid. Also adding a fold across the top. Come down the side. It's got a few little wrinkles underneath the eyes going around. And it'll darken up the iris and pupil. So start on the left, making sure that they're in the right place. And a small dot in the center for the pupils. And from here, it's going to work our way down towards the nose. I want to add a little point in the center across the bottom. So just pulling that down in the middle. I want to readjust the placement of that center line, coming down towards the mouth. Go across the cheeks. Another fold going around the corner of the mouth. Now from the edge of that fold underneath the eye, I'm just going to add some wrinkles, going out and then down. Cross towards the side. Now across the bottom along the outside of the chin, I'm going to add some more wrinkles, going up and then out. And just adding some layers going around the face. And then moving to the side of the head, across the temple, it's going to bend this around and out. Now you want to add some fur across the cheeks. So we're going to start with a curl going up, and then back in. Add some points going around the cheek. Now we start to bend this around and then down. Just around that curve, coming in towards the chin. Do the same thing on the right, curling this up and out. Start to bend this around the cheek and then down. Going to add some folds and wrinkles across the forehead, just bending this up around the brow, so just enhancing the shape of the brow. Then separating the hairs across the top of the head, just using this as a guide, just pulling some up and then out. Separate the end, coming back down towards the bottom. Now right here, it's going to add a little bit of texture, just curling this around. Let's bend the side of the neck coming down, adding some fur along the side. And I want to do one final cleanup before we get into some contrast and shading. Once we're happy with our general proportions, I'm going to switch my pencil to this 0.9mm to get some contrast and more detail to the face. I'm going to go back to the eyes. Let's start with the bottom edge of the brow. We're just going to darken this up. Just curl this around. And I want to give some weight to our lines, so we're just going to add some thickness to the bottom edge of the lines. I'm just going to add a little bit of fur texture along the outside. So starting from the end, just adding these little points, just curving around the top. And then bending that in. So we're just adding a little bit of texture for the brow, going up and then around that turn. And then down towards the bottom. And we'll go and just darken up the inside. Now with the nose, I'm going to shade in the bottom, and we're just going to gradually fade that up to create a little bit of a highlight effect across the top of the nose. So the light's coming down from the top of our page, coming straight down. So the shadows will sit along the bottom edge, with the highlights across the top of each shape. Now with these wrinkles, we're going to do the same thing, just adding a little bit of weight where the shadows would be, and then fading them out, and then continuing across the bottom. So the shadows sit across the bottom of the chin, so we're just going to darken up that line, make it a little bit heavier, and then just fade that up along the side. We'll do the same thing with the other wrinkles, again darker across the bottom, and tapering up to a point. And we'll do the same thing across these wrinkles, going a little bit heavier in the middle of that curve, and then tapering that down. Now with the fur and the hair, we're going to start off darker across the outside and just fade that in. Just adding some weight to the outside and textures. And then across the bottom, again, just adding a little bit of shadow and texture going up. Let's do one final cleanup of our drawing. And now we want to layer on our shadows. So again, the light's coming down across our characters, so the shadows sit along the bottom edge of each shape. So with the brow, I'm just going to darken up the bottom, just up above the eyelid, and then fade that up towards the top. So the darker area of the shadow will sit just above the eye. Now each of these folds is also going to cast a shadow. It's just going to darken up the area just underneath. And then from the chin going up and out. Darken up the chin area. Now the head's going to cast a shadow across the top of the neck, so we're going to darken that up, and then we'll gradually fade that down. Now with this mouth area, we want to pull this down and in across the bottom. Just going to shade in the bottom, and then fade that up. Just giving a little bit of a curve to the top of the mouth. I'm going to add a little bit of a coarse shadow along the cheeks, so leaving a gap just underneath the bottom, just to pick up a little bit of a highlight, and go across the side of the head. Do the same thing on the right side, just setting this shadow in. Also across the top of the forehead, going up towards the top. I want to go back and start layering on those fine details. So I'm going to start with the cheeks with the fur, just starting from the dark area and just pulling this in. Just working with the curvature of the head. Also add some of that texture inside that core shadow. Now, as we get near the end of our drawing, I'm just going to tighten up my shadows and add a little bit more detail, and always be sure to sign my artwork. And that's pretty much it. There's a sketch illustration of the Grinch. I hope you enjoyed today's lesson. If you do, please be sure to subscribe for more videos each week where I'll show you how to draw different characters just like this one. I want to thank you for joining me today, and I'll see you again soon.